There is a single number in your financial life that matters more than any other. Not $1 million, not 10 million, 100,000. If you have ever worked hard, saved what you could, and still felt as though you were running in place while the finish line stayed exactly as far away as it was years ago, the reason is that you have not yet crossed it, because that number is simultaneously the hardest amount you will ever accumulate and very nearly the last difficult amount you will ever have to work for. Once you cross it, the mathematics of wealth begin to shift in your favor in a way that feels almost unfair to everyone still standing on the other side of it. Benjamin Graham understood the principle behind this more deeply than almost anyone who has ever studied money. He spent his career demonstrating that wealth is not built through brilliance or luck or timing. It is built through a small number of correct decisions, applied with discipline, repeated without interruption, until compounding crosses a threshold and begins doing the work your labor used to do alone. The first $100,000 is that threshold. It is the point where your money stops being a passive pile of savings and starts becoming an engine that generates returns large enough to feel. Charlie Munger, who absorbed Graham's thinking through Graham's most famous student, once said that the first 100,000 is the hardest and that you simply have to get through it however you can. He was right. And everything we discussed today is aimed at getting you through it as quickly as the principles allow. Today, I am going to walk you through 7 principles that accelerate the journey to that first 100,000, all of them drawn from the way Graham thought about capital. We will count them down from the 7th most important to the single most powerful change you can make. Each one is grounded in concrete numbers, because Graham believed that imprecision in financial matters was not merely careless, but genuinely dangerous. And by the time we reach the first principle, you will understand the one decision that does more to determine your speed toward that 100,000 than every other decision combined. Pay close attention, because what determines whether you cross this threshold is almost never how much you earn. It is whether you understand the small number of decisions that separate the people who break through from the people who spend their entire working lives almost getting there. The difference between those two groups is not income, it is not intelligence, it is knowledge applied consistently, and that is exactly what you are about to receive. I have seen people earning modest salaries cross this threshold in their early 30s, and I have seen people earning 3 times as much arrive at 50 with nothing, because the first group understood these principles and the second group never paused long enough to learn them. Before we begin the countdown, you need to understand why the first 100,000 is so much harder than every amount that follows it. The answer is mathematics, and Graham would have insisted you grasp it precisely. When you start from zero, every dollar in your account arrived through your own labor. You earned it, resisted the temptation to spend it, and placed it carefully where it could grow. At this stage, the growth from your investments is almost invisible. A 10% return on $5,000 is $500 across an entire year. It feels like nothing. You are doing all the lifting yourself, and the compounding machine everyone promises will make you wealthy. Seems like a distant rumor told by people who must have started with some advantage you never had. But something shifts as you approach that 100,000 mark. That same 10% return applied to $100,000 generates $10,000 in a single year. Your money is now earning nearly as much as a part-time job without consuming a single hour of your time. Picture a boulder you have been pushing up a hill with enormous effort. The first 100,000 is the crest of that hill. Cross it, and the same boulder begins rolling down the other side, gathering speed on its own, requiring you only to guide it rather than to push it. This is the moment Graham's beloved compounding finally grows strong enough to carry you. The people who push through the climb reach a kind of escape velocity. The people who give up before the crest never feel the boulder turn in their favor. Now let us count down the 7 principles that get you to the top of that hill faster. We begin with a principle most people get exactly backward. Before you chase a single gain, you must eliminate your guaranteed losses. Graham built his philosophy around the margin of safety, the discipline of protecting against the downside before reaching for the upside. There is no clearer violation of that discipline than carrying high interest debt while attempting to build wealth elsewhere. Think of high interest debt as a hole in the hull of a ship. You can pour water into the vessel all day, bailing furiously with every dollar you earn, but until you patch the hole, you will never stay afloat. Consider the arithmetic honestly. Imagine you carry a balance of $10,000 at 22% interest while your investments return 10%. The debt cost you $2,200 a year. The investment on the same $10,000 earns you $1,000. You are losing $1,200 annually on that spread, guaranteed with absolute certainty. There is no investment Graham would ever have endorsed that produces a guaranteed 22% return. Yet eliminating that debt does exactly that, free of tax, free of risk. You might be thinking you cannot afford to attack debt and invest at the same time. Graham would tell you the order is not optional. Patch the hull first, then fill the ship. Moving to number 6, we confront a thief that operates so quietly, most people never notice they have been robbed. Investment fees are the silent erosion of your wealth, and Graham was relentless about eliminating them because the damage is invisible in any single year and devastating across a lifetime. A 1% annual fee sounds trivial. Think of it instead as termites in the foundation of a house. In any given month, you see nothing wrong. The structure looks solid, but year after year, the damage compounds beneath the surface until the foundation can no longer hold. Consider 2 investors who each build $100,000 and let it grow for 30 years at the same underlying return. The first pays 1% in annual fees. The second pays 1/10 of 1%. That difference of 0.9% seems like nothing. Across 3 decades of compounding, it can cost the first investor well over $100,000 in lost growth, an amount equal to everything they started with. The fee does not simply take your money once. It takes the money and everything that money would have earned, compounding against you for the rest of your investing life. The encouraging part is that this is one of the easiest leaks to fix. A few hours of research, a single transfer into a low-cost index fund, and you have permanently removed a drag that would otherwise have followed you for decades. Choose the low-cost option because in most cases you are paying dramatically more for a product that performs no better and frequently worse. At number 5, there is a discount sitting in plain sight that most people walk past every single year. Graham believed the intelligent investor exploits every legitimate structural advantage available, and few rival the tax treatment of retirement accounts. When you contribute to a traditional tax-advantaged account, you reduce your taxable income by the full amount of your contribution. If you earn $50,000 and contribute $10,000, you are taxed as though you earned $40,000. In a 22% bracket, that single decision returns over $2,000 to your pocket this year. Put differently, to invest $1,000, you only need to set aside $780 of your actual take-home pay because the tax savings cover the rest. Understand what this means in Graham's terms. You are receiving an immediate guaranteed return before your investments have grown by a single dollar. It is the closest thing to free capital the system offers, a coupon the government prints and leaves sitting on the table. And most people never bend down to pick it up because they never took the time to learn it was there. And if your employer offers any matching contribution, the math becomes even more extraordinary because that is not a discount but a doubling free money handed to you simply for participating. Capture every dollar of this before you place a single dollar into an ordinary taxable account. The 4th principle is to buy the entire orchard rather than gambling on which single tree will bear the most fruit. This was the heart of what Graham called the defensive investor. He recognized that most people, including most professionals, cannot reliably predict which individual companies will outperform, and that the attempt introduces enormous risk for uncertain reward. The solution he pointed toward, and which his most famous student later championed for ordinary people, is to own a broad cross-section of the entire market through a single low-cost index fund. When you buy an index fund tracking the largest companies in the economy, you are not betting on any one business surviving and thriving. You are buying a small ownership stake in hundreds of the most productive enterprises in existence all at once. You do not need to read annual reports. You do not need to predict which technology will dominate the coming decade. You do not need to outsmart the millions of professionals who spend their entire careers trying and failing to beat the market. You simply own the productive capacity of the entire economy and let it compound. For the investor building toward their first 100,000, no vehicle Graham's philosophy supports is more reliable. Number 3 asks something of you that feels unnatural, a discipline that borders on stubbornness. When your investments produce dividends, reinvest every single one of them. Most people make this decision incorrectly. They take the dividend, treat it as a small reward for their cleverness, and spend it on something forgotten within weeks. Graham revered the alternative. Think of each dividend as a seed from a harvest. You can eat the seed, enjoying it for a moment, or you can plant it, turning one stalk into two, two into four, four into an entire field. Consider the historical record. The broad market has produced an average annual return of roughly 10% when dividends are reinvested, but only around 6 to 7% when those dividends are taken as cash and spent. That gap of 3 to 4 percentage points appears small in any single year. Across 30 years, it is the difference between a comfortable retirement and a fearful one. Every dividend reinvested becomes more ownership, which produces more dividends, which purchase still more ownership. This is the quiet engine that turns a modest portfolio into a substantial one without requiring you to add a single dollar of new savings. It requires only one thing from you: the discipline to resist eating the seed. And now we reach number 2, which Graham considered the investor's single greatest enemy. That enemy is not the market. It is the investor's own emotional reaction to the market. Graham created a famous mental device he called Mr. Market, an imaginary business partner who appears every day offering to buy your holdings or sell you more at wildly different prices, depending entirely on his mood. Some days he is euphoric and quotes absurd prices. Other days he is consumed by despair and offers excellent assets for a fraction of their worth. The undisciplined investor is controlled by Mr. Market's moods, buying in euphoria and selling in panic, which is precisely backward. The intelligent investor uses Mr. Market's emotions without ever catching the infection. When the market falls 30% and the financial press declares the end of the world, the undisciplined sell everything to stop the pain. But a market decline does not destroy the value of the businesses you own. It merely lowers their price for a time, which to a steady buyer of assets is not a catastrophe, but a sale. I understand the objection. When your account is bleeding red and everyone around you is fleeing, holding still feels like standing in a burning building. But the data is unforgiving. Investors who miss only the 10 best days in the market across 30 years cut their total returns nearly in half. And those best days arrive most often in the immediate aftermath of the worst days, when the fearful have already sold and run. The cruel irony is that the people who try hardest to avoid the bad days end up missing the good ones too. Continue investing through every panic and every boom, and you will avoid the single most expensive mistake ordinary investors make. And now, the first principle, the one that does more to determine the speed of your journey to $100,000 than every other principle combined. It is not an investment strategy at all. It is the gap between what you earn and what you spend, and the relentless defense of that gap against the force that quietly destroys it. Here is the truth Graham understood and most people refuse to accept. In the early years of building wealth, your investment returns are nearly irrelevant compared to your savings rate. When you have $10,000 invested, the difference between a great year and a terrible year in the market is a few $100s. But the difference between saving $500 a month and saving $1,500 a month is $12,000 every single year, regardless of what the market does. On the road to your first $100,000, the width of the gap between your income and your expenses matters far more than your skill as an investor. Think of that gap as the width of a river. A narrow channel lets only a trickle through, no matter how hard the water pushes against the banks. Widen the channel and a flood pours through towards your future. And the single greatest threat to that width is the force Graham's intellectual descendants named lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation works invisibly, which is exactly why it is so dangerous. You begin earning $40,000 and live a certain way, then you earn $50,000, and rather than saving the additional 10, you upgrade your apartment because you have worked hard and feel you have earned the reward. Then you earn $60,000 and you upgrade your car. Within a few years, you have doubled your income and saved almost nothing because every increase in earning was instantly swallowed by an increase in spending. you are running harder and harder on a treadmill that never moves you forward. The investor who escapes this trap does something that feels almost unnatural. When their income rises, they hold their spending exactly where it was and direct the entire increase toward building wealth. They treat each raise not as permission to spend more, but as fuel poured directly into the engine. The remarkable thing, which Graham's descendants confirmed through decades of study, is that this restraint costs almost nothing in happiness, because the upgrades that lifestyle inflation buys deliver a thrill that fades within weeks and then becomes the unremarkable new normal. Combine this with intelligent control of your largest expense, which for most people is housing, and the effect becomes transformative. I can already hear the objection: you cannot simply move. You have a family, a career, responsibilities that anchor you in place. I am not telling you to uproot your entire life. I am telling you that if you spend $2,000 a month on housing and find a way to bring that to $1,400, whether through a roommate, a more modest space, or a strategic move while you build your foundation, you have created $600 a month of investable capital. That is $7,200 a year. Invested consistently at a reasonable return over 2 decades, that one decision can add hundreds of thousands of dollars to your net worth. The gap is the foundation upon which every other principle rests. Without it, there is nothing to invest, no fees worth minimizing, no compounding to set in motion. With it, every other principle multiplies into something extraordinary. Now let me draw all 7 together, because Graham understood they are not 7 separate tactics, but a single integrated system. Patching the hull by eliminating high interest debt keeps you afloat. Killing the termites of investment fees protects your foundation. Claiming the government's coupon through tax-advantaged accounts hands you free returns before you start. Buying the whole orchard through index funds gives you reliable growth. Planting every dividend seed maximizes your compounding. Refusing to catch Mr. Market's fever prevents the catastrophic mistakes that erase decades of progress. And widening the river between earning and spending supplies the water that powers the entire system. Remove any one of them and the others weaken. Combine all 7 and the journey to $100,000 stops being a question of whether and becomes only a question of when. Most people will never assemble the system. They will keep spending everything they earn, paying fees they never examine, carrying debt they never eliminate, and selling in every panic the market manufactures. They will arrive at the later years of their lives wondering why decades of honest effort produce so little to show for it. You do not have to be one of them. You have been handed the map that Graham spent a lifetime drawing, and the territory it describes is real, reachable, and waiting. So here is what I want you to do before this day ends. Do not attempt all 7 principles at once. Choose the one most within your reach today and take a single concrete action on it. Eliminate 1 debt, move 1 investment into a lower cost fund, open 1 tax-advantaged account, and make 1 contribution. Hold your spending exactly where it is the next time your income rises. The action will feel small, almost too small to matter. And that feeling is precisely the trap that keeps most people standing forever at the bottom of the hill. Because the boulder does not move when you shove it once with all your strength and then walk away. It moves because you lean into it steadily, a little more each day, until the moment it crests the hill and begins to roll on its own. That moment is your first 100,000. Graham reached it. The students he taught reached it. And the only thing standing between you and the far side of that hill is whether you begin pushing today or hand the climb to a version of yourself who will have far less time to let the boulder roll.